So I was just hitting some back roads and I came across an absolutely splendid site, which is just a whole population of Sanguinaria canadensis in full anthesis. This is the bloodroot. It's in the poppy family, the Papaveraceae. It's a lovely native wildflower, a spring ephemeral in fact. So you can see there's just a whole load of it coming up this roadside here. Absolutely incredible. I'm causing a traffic jam while I do this. But yeah, so just a lovely sight to see, and I think this will kick off our tour of some spring ephemerals, because I'm actually heading to a preserve right now that's got a good array of them. But this is just a lovely way to start the video off, I think. Some nice Sanguinaria canadensis action. Common name again is bloodroot. It gets that name because being in the Papaveraceae, it's loaded up with all kinds of toxic alkaloids. But this one, the alkaloids, if you cut the roots of this plant, they'll actually ooze a nice red sap color. Nice red sap that is the color of blood, red. Wow, I am, it's going to be a good video, I hope, though. Beautiful. So I'm still in the parking lot, and I'm already finding stuff, which means that it's going to be a good day, actually, even if my my roadside chat about bloodroot wasn't the best. What we're looking at right here, this guy, this is Cardamine concatenata. It's also sometimes referred to as, I think, Dentaria licineata is a synonym for that name. I'm not sure which name I prefer. I haven't done enough reading to see if this actually warrants being placed in its own genus of Dentaria, or if it does belong with the cardamines. But it's a member of the Brassicaceae, the mustard family, so it's a host plant for a couple different species of butterfly. This is a spring ephemeral again. Characteristics of the Brassicaceae, you're going to want to note that nice four-petaled corolla there. Get a nice zoom in on that. And I believe these have typically 6 stamens as well. So there you go, Cardamine concatenata, or Dentaria licineata. I'll let you know what I find out about that split. See if it's valid or not. But what we got going on in the background, actually, you can see right there, those leaves belong to another spring wildflower, that being Geranium maculatum, the woodland geranium, or the common cranesbill, I think they call it as well, in reference to the shape of the seed pod. So yeah, it looks like this is going to be a good hike. And we got some more bloodroot, actually. These ones have already gone to, they're in the middle of producing their nice pods. So yeah, three wildflowers right in the parking lot. This is going to be a good one. We're still reporting live from the parking lot because I came across 2 more plants I want to talk about real quick. This yellow one right here. This is Erythronium americanum, the American trout lily or yellow trout lily, fawn lily, dogtooth violet. They got a lot of names. They're a member of the Liliaceae, so they've got, you know, your typical monocot characteristics of having parallel veins and flowers arranged in numbers of like multiples of 3 typically are good characteristics for monocot identification. Interesting to note about this plant is that the pollen can actually be one of 2 colors. It can either be yellow or red. I'm not quite sure what the significance of that is. I have to do some more reading and maybe jot that down in a little sidebar here. But it's a beautiful plant. There's another species of Erythronium we get in the region, Erythronium albidum. The big difference between them, if you couldn't guess by the scientific name, is that Erythronium albidum is white, whereas this one is yellow. I believe the habitat preference is a little bit different as well. I usually see Erythronium albidum more in like riparian zones, and this guy seems to be more of a Mesic woodland character. Absolutely beautiful, though. One of my favorite spring wildflowers up there with bloodroot. And growing right next to it, we've got a cool native member of the barberry family. So you're probably familiar with Japanese barberry, Berberis thunbergii, which is a nice invasive shrub that people accidentally put in their landscaping because they're not properly informed on ecology. Nice little Erythronium in bud back there. But anyway, that's beside the point. This is a native member of the barberry family. It's highly rhizomatous, so you'll see it forming these big colonies of just genetically identical clones like this. It's got a beautiful flower on it as well. Very cool to see these big colonies of plants like this, because it takes a lot of time to really build up a population like this. So you know you're in a good spot when you're seeing lots and lots of these nice native clonal plants in big clusters. Absolutely. The scientific name on the mayapple is Podophyllum peltatum. I don't like calling them mayapples, I call them fairy umbrellas because I think it's cuter. But common names are made up anyway, so do whatever the hell you want. I'm not the boss. Look at all of that. Isn't that beautiful? This dainty little bastard right here. This is, get nice and close so you can get a good look at those adorable little flowers. This is, not cardamine, excuse me, Claytonia virginica, the Virginia Spring Beauty. I touched on this plant earlier when I did that video about Carex plantaginea, which we will be seeing again because I love it. But, like I said, this plant, it's got a really cool relationship with the bee Andrena originae, because Andrena originae only feeds their young with the pollen of these particular plants. It's what you call an oligolectic bee. Oligolectic, that's a pretty cool word. Anyways, just a lovely little scene here, isn't it? Oh yeah, they call them spring beauties for a reason, I guess. Huh. Love it when the common names fit. This video is probably gonna be a bit on the longer side, just because I've got so much flora to document. So if you're not gonna stay tuned, maybe watch it in chunks or something like that. But just get a load of this forest floor right here. Oh my god. Absolutely covered in Claytonia virginica. Beautiful. Got to be great habitat for the bees. And I've been seeing a lot of bees. I think they're mostly in the genus Andrena. Got a couple more of the American or yellow trout lilies right there. Erythronium americanum. But what I stopped by to show us is this magnificent plant right here. This is a, if you're a deer, this is a delicacy. Get a load of that. This is Trillium grandiflorum, the big flower trillium, or I call it the great white trillium because it makes me think of great white sharks. And it's a really badass plant, the same way a great white shark is a very badass organism. But yeah, so this is another one of those clonal spring wildflowers. There's usually, in about like a week or so, this entire hillside, this little ridge will just light up white with a whole with just a massive clonal patch of Trillium grandiflorum. Yeah, and I think I saw one that was a bit further along in its phenology, so we'll try to get a good look at that, see if we can't see one in full flower. There's another bloodroot back there. Oh god, yeah. And there you go, Trillium grandiflorum. As you can see, it is indeed quite the grand flower. These things are big as hell. Absolutely beautiful. Get a load in there, see if we can't get a nice close-up shot of the styles and anthers and whatnot. There's a bee buzzing around. Maybe it'll pollinate this. Looks like a melandrina. Nope, it's interested in the Claytonia. Okay. Anyways, Trillium grandiflorum. Wow, what a stunner. So what we've got right here is another native member of the Papaveraceae. This is Colophyllum thalictroides, the blue cohosh. We get two species of cohosh in the area. We get Colophyllum thalictroides, this one. Beautiful flowers on that. And we get Colophyllum giganteum as well, the early blue cohosh. And the way you distinguish between the two is the way they flower, the color of the flowers, okay? Those two factors will help you make a successful identification. So the color of the flowers, which I think is not the best trait to go off of, but in Colophyllum giganteum, they're gonna be this more purple-red, whereas they're more of this nice weird kind of yellow-green in Colophyllum thalictroides. And additionally, in Colophyllum giganteum, as the common name would imply, the early blue cohosh, the flowers will open up before the leaves or at the same time, whereas in this one, as you can see here, we've got our leaves all the way opened up and it has yet to flower, making it apparent that this is in fact Colophyllum thalictroides. But yeah, another really cool member of the Papaveraceae, which I used to not think of as really being worth much, but seeing this in the May-apples, and one day I'll see Jeffersonia diphylla, but yeah, really cool group of plants. So here's another really cool plant. I've probably called all the plants that I've seen so far cool, but the spring wildflowers are just absolutely fucking awesome. You know, you can't beat them really. Well, you can beat them, but it's hard to do. You know, it's one of the coolest phenomena out there, I think. But anyway, back to this guy. This is Sarum canadensis, the Canada wild ginger. It's a really cool plant. Again, I can never say that goddamn word right. Rhizomatis. If someone wants to correct me in the comments, go ahead and do it. I don't really care. I'm going to keep saying it wrong. But anyway, as you can see, so we got a nice big colony of it here. And the flowers on this plant are really cool. It's in the Liliaceae, okay, which has some really weird flowers. They're like these weird woody flowers. And as you can see, there's a nice little bud. It'll split apart into 3 petals. And it lays there on the ground because I'm gonna have to read up on what pollinates it, but it's like this. I'm probably gonna throw up a picture of the flower in 3, 2, 1. And so that's the flower. So not quite sure what pollinates it. Gonna have to do some research, but the flower is situated very low on the ground below the foliage. Pretty neat. And I got a sweat bee licking me. Awesome. Look at that. It's the most wonderful time of the year. It's sweat bee season. Just kidding. That would be a very long season. Anyways, back to the plants. So what I've got right here is just a lovely patch of Anemone bitternata. This is the false rue anemone. I'll try to find the true rue anemone for us out here in a little bit, so we can go over how to distinguish the two. The way you do is by the number of petals, and the leaves are a little bit different, but you should usually go for that. Well, actually, hang on. These aren't petals. These are petaloid sepals. Because if we turn this flower around, let me find a good one to turn around. There you go. You can see there's no sepals back there, meaning that these white things are actually petaloid sepals, which is a common feature you get in the family that this plant is from, the Ranunculaceae, the buttercup family. So yeah, so the number of petals is, number of petaloid sepals is what you're going to go off of. Anemone bitternatum's got like 5, and the Thalictrum thalictroides, the true anemone, has a lot more than that, generally speaking. Oh yeah, a wonderful little wildflower. So we, of course, had to stop in and say hello to a sedge. I'll show you guys a different sedge in a later on in this video, but just to retouch on it, Carex plantaginea, folks. Often found in the nice Mesic woodlands, especially those that have good glacial ravines. And of course, just look at how wide these damn leaves are. And that really, really cool texture. This is an awesome sedge. And as you can see, it's developing fruit right now. As you can see, these anthers up here. Remember, Caryxes are monoecious, separate male and female flowers on the same plant typically. As you can see, these anthers are looking pretty spent. Get a load of that beautiful red fucking bract. Oh my god. I love seeing the color red in nature because it doesn't pop up too much. And I lose it every time it happens. Oh yeah, we got another great plant for you guys right here. This is Dicentra cucularia, the Dutchman's breeches. I don't think these look like, well, I guess they do kind of look like pants a little bit. The flowers do. Again, this is a member of the Papaveraceae, so it's loaded with good old toxic alkaloids. Other notable members of the other notable poppy family derivatives include drugs like heroin, morphine, stuff like that. So you know you're dealing with a really potent family in the Papaveraceae. This one, the really badass fact about this plant, its other common name other than Dutchman's breeches is little blue staggers. I don't know where they pulled blue from. I guess the foliage is a little bluish perhaps, but the staggers part comes from the fact that cattle used to eat this plant when it would be in like the grazing pasture, and it's actually so toxic that the cows would stumble around like they were drunk after they ate this thing. So it's quite potent. Very, very cool. Beautiful flowers. I think this might actually be, I wonder, I think these might be buzz pollinated, which means that the flower has to be vibrated at a specific frequency to actually release pollen, so they can only be successfully pollinated by bumblebees. I think. Gonna have to do some reading to make sure I'm right on that, but a very cool plant nonetheless. Dicentra cucularia. Might be able to see Dicentra canadensis out here, but I think I might be too early for it. But nonetheless, we shall try. So I was, in fact, a little bit early, but here are the flowers of, developing flowers, rather, of Dicentra canadensis. This one's called squirrel corn. And if you look at these flowers, you'll notice they bear a striking similarity to the bleeding hearts, which are another member of the poppy family. So maybe instead of planting bleeding hearts, you could try to find a nice reputable nursery, get your mitts on some Dutchman's breeches or squirrel corn. They probably don't sell this one though because it's a bit more uncommon. Might be able to get your hands on some Dutchman's breeches instead though, and really appeal to the native pollinators while still maintaining that lovely flower shape. Anyway, Dicentra canadensis, folks. Here's some more mature squirrel corn right here. Some more of the Dicentra canadensis. Absolutely beautiful, these flowers. What a cool plant. Oh yeah. So I just realized I've been throwing around the term spring ephemeral without really actually defining what that term is. So what a spring ephemeral is, in the most bare bones sense, is it's an early flowering plant blooming in the springtime with a short life cycle that typically blooms before the canopy leafs out. Okay, you see how the canopy is pretty bare bones right now? So basically, all the spring ephemerals are able to take advantage of this kind of gap and exploit the resources of the readily available sunlight on the forest floor. They bloom fast, they die quick, and then they come back next spring. It's an absolutely awesome phenomenon. Ephemeral is, you know, it just means short-lived. So like an ephemeral pool, a spring ephemeral, kind of gives you a picture for how long it's sticking around for. But anyway, so that's what spring ephemeral means. I'm sorry I wasn't exactly clear about that. My bad. So what we've got right here is a really cool plant. This is Allium trichocum trichocum. You contrast that with Allium trichocum burdickii because this one's got a nice red leaf base and these leaves are super wide. But what this plant's common name is this is the famous wild ramp, Chicago. It's actually theorized is named after this plant right here, so that's pretty badass. But one problem about the wild ramps, or rather a problem with people, is that they get over harvested a lot. Like people dig up the bulbs, which is where the plant stores all its energy, and once you take those bulbs, this plant will not come back. So it's very important too, if you're going to go out and forage for ramps, that you do it sustainably and ecologically responsibly. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to look for nice plants that are nice and sizable, and you're only going to want to take one leaf from them. And then you're going to move on to the next one, and so on and so forth. They pack a lot of punch, so you don't need a lot of these. Definitely do not over harvest. I cannot stress that enough. There are enough plants that are at risk already without just adding to them because you got to have some fancy garlic. If you really want to forage garlic, I might recommend a nice sustainable alternative, Allium vineale, which I'll throw up a picture of right quick. Allium vineale, the crow garlic, which is actually invasive, tastes very similar to ramps. You can actually get the bulbs. Got a sweat bee on my finger. Come on, focus. I can't focus, there's a bee around. Anyways, you're gonna have to take my word for it that that's a sweat bee. But yeah, if you're gonna harvest ramps, make sure you're being smart about it for the ecosystem, okay? I can't stress that enough. Oh, it really likes me. That's cute. But yeah, so just please, oh, a cat. Awesome. No idea who that belongs to or what that turns into. Nice yellow stripe on the side though. But yeah, the ramps. Please be mindful of the ramp populations, okay? Please. Thanks. Yeah, why not take a little herpetological? Nice herpetology action, never hurt nobody. This is Plethodon cineris, the eastern redback salamander. This salamander is really cool because it's got a lot of, well, first of all, it's lungless. It breathes entirely through its skin. I've heard that its lungs have actually been modified over evolutionary time to make it, like, be able to shoot its tongue out farther to get bugs and stuff like that, which is really badass. So, number one, no lungs. Very cool. Number two, this guy's got a lot of different color morphs, so you'll see a lot of salamanders that look very different from one another, but they're actually all eastern redbacks. The most common one I see is called the leadback morph, which will just be a nice, like, slaty gray on top, not having this beautiful red coloration that this individual has. Aw, yeah. Don't you just love salamanders? They're incredible little guys. Super cool. Love seeing these. So this is the other sedge I was talking about. This is Carex pedunculata in the section Clandestinae, and it's another absolute stunner of a sedge. Look at those flowers. Oh yeah, and then if you look down at the base, you can see some beautiful red coloration, which, as we've already established, really speaks to me. It's an excellent color in sedges. Some more flower action. A notable thing about this one is that the female flowers are borne on these long peduncles, which is actually where this plant gets the specific epithet from. Another trait that's very apparent in this one is these nice thin leaves. Ooh yeah. Carex pedunculata, absolutely stunning. Here we're looking at the, this is the true rue anemone. So if you can, cast your mind back to that Anemone bidernatum, the false one, and try to mentally contrast the two. Like I said, the number of petaloid sepals is the most obvious differentiating factor between the two species. But there are some differences in the leaves, but again, you shouldn't really go off of leaves because leaves can be they can be altered due to a number of factors that aren't really like good for identifying the species. Basically, like the environment can play a role in determining leaf morphology a bit, you know, rather than the genes and whatnot. So leaves are a bit different, but try not to go off of that. Try to go off the flowers. Absolutely. Thalictrum thalictroides, the thalictrum that looks like a thalictrum. Very stupid name. Well, folks, I think that's going to be it for me today, so I hope we had a nice time checking out some of the nice spring ephemerals that are going up right now. Maybe try your best, get outside and take a hike and see some for yourself, huh? Anyways, have a good one.